Over 100 years ago, in 1899, Alberta was not yet a province. What is now northern Alberta was part of a large region called Athabasca. The Government of Canada had big plans for this region.
This is rich land, a farmer's paradise. Hear, hear, this land must be divided and sold to settlers. Farms will prosper, towns will be built, coal and even gold will be mined. Onwards and upwards, God save the Queen.
The Aboriginal people who had always lived in the Athabasca region expressed concern. Their ancestors lived there long before any fur traders or settlers arrived.
Many white people have built forts here, and it is good. But now they want to divide the land and tell us where to live.
Our way of life is to hunt and trap animals. We use the animals for food, and now we trade their furs at the forts. To survive, we must be free to go wherever the animals are.
We must face the facts, my friends. The fur trade is dying, and the beaver and other animals are getting too scarce, and people will no longer be able to support themselves just by trapping and trading furs. We must look at other ways of making a living.
We understand that the animals are fewer and fewer, and things must change. But we are concerned about the future of our children.
If the white people own the land, we will have nothing to leave to our children.
If our children must live differently than we do, how can they learn these new ways? Who will teach them?
And what about us, eh, the Métis? Some of us hunt and trap, some of us work at the forts. If the government makes a deal with the Indians for the land, we cannot be a part of the deal because we are not Indian. We are worried that we will have no land and our way of life will change.
The Government of Canada had a solution to these concerns. They would make a treaty with the Aboriginal people. This treaty is known as Treaty 8. They formed two commissions which would travel to the forts and meet with the Aboriginal people. The Treaty Commission only dealt with the Aboriginals who wanted to sign the treaty. The Script Commission dealt with the Métis who chose not to sign the treaty. A man named David Laird had the huge responsibility of leading the Treaty Commission. David Laird was the head commissioner and the one who explained the treaty to the Aboriginals. Mr. Laird had to make sure that everyone heard and understood Treaty 8 and was satisfied with the terms. Charles Mair was a poet and journalist who was born in Upper Canada. He supported the government and joined the Half-Breed Script Commission. Charles Mair kept a detailed diary of everything that happened during the journey. However, a mission such as this required many more people. There were accountants, secretaries, a doctor, cooks, translators, and of course some Northwest Mounted Police.
Wagons.
Chuck full of supplies.
Why, we had to have enough tents, blankets, and food for all 50 of us.
Not to mention the boxes of papers and typewriters.
We said goodbye to the big town of Edmonton and began our journey. We traveled on land for only part of the 4 months of our journey.
Talk about tough going with all that mud, muskeg, mosquitoes, black flies, and no roads or bridges.
As soon as we reached the Athabasca River, we loaded our supplies onto a couple of scow boats and one big York boat.
Hey, watch out, Charlie! Ah! Get him out of the water!
Yep, the rivers were the only roads in these parts.
Of course, there was one big drawback to boat travel.
Whenever the river got rough, you know, waterfalls, rapids, or just plain impassable, we had to get out and pull those boats along the shore.
We would all pull in a line.
A chain gang, we called it.
Our hands were bruised and cut up. Every muscle was straining under the weight of the boats.
Dirt stuck to our sweaty faces and necks. Once we got to use a real riverboat, the SS Graham, she was called.
It was used to get us to our last stop, up at Fort McMurray.
Of course, it was only a short ways, but it gave us time to catch up.
We were always running 2 weeks behind, by the way.
Boy, did it ever feel good not to have to drag those boats along the shore. Every evening when we moved from place to place, we had to find a good piece of land fit for 50 men to set up camp.
After hauling those boats all day, putting up those tents was nothing. Of course, there was always one thing on our mind.
Food! We worked up quite an appetite, let me tell ya.
We were always hungry.
Naturally, we took turns helping with the cooking.
Lots of potatoes had to be peeled for 50 men.
At each fort, the Aboriginals of the area gathered and waited for the two commissions to arrive. They were ready to negotiate.
The white men who work for the Queen have arrived today. They are 2 weeks late. They look tired and their hands are cut and blistered. They have set up their tents and flags. They want to make a treaty with us. Many feelings are mixed among my people.
Why should we make treaty with the white men? They will force us to live only on reserves and stop hunting and fishing. Our lives will change. We will be slaves, depending on the white men for survival.
Since the forts have come, we have already made many changes in our lives. These changes have been good for many of us, and good for the white people too. We are still free to live as we wish. We cannot stop more people from coming here, so we must see if we can come to an agreement now.
A priest of the white man's church, Father the Cold, has lived among us for many years and has learned our language. He has said that these men can be trusted and the treaty will be good for us. He has always been kind and fair to us. He is very respected. We can trust his word.
Now I will give you an outline of the terms we offer you. If you agree to take treaty, everyone gets $12. And after this year and every year afterwards, $5 for each person forever. To the chiefs, as you may select, we will give $25 each year. The chiefs also get a silver medal and a flag such as you see at our tent. Then we will give 1 square mile, 640 acres of land to each family of 5. Indians who take treaty will be free to hunt and fish all over as they are now.
My people have concerns about this treaty. Are these terms good forever, as long as the sun shines on us? What means will we have to instruct our children? I will think carefully about what you have said.
Many bands of Aboriginal people accepted Treaty 8 in 1899. They lived in the areas of Lesser Slave Lake, Peace River, Dunvegan, Fort Vermilion, Fort Chipewyan, Fort Smith, Fond du Lac, Fort McMurray, and Wabasca. In each place, some of the Métis people chose not to sign the treaty, but to take scrip instead. To take scrip, you had to decide if you had any European ancestors in your family.
Those who have signed the treaty will henceforth legally be known as Indians. Those of you who have not signed the treaty and want to take scrip will henceforth legally be known as half-breeds. Those taking scrip will get a scrip note. A land scrip note can be exchanged for 240 acres of land in the Athabasca region only. A money scrip note is worth $240, but only when you go to buy government land. However, there are white traders around who will give you cash for it, but not very much.
With the signing of Treaty 8, the government surveyed Athabasca and began opening it up to the homesteaders. The government also began using the natural resources like coal, lumber, and petroleum. The days of trading were over, and from now on, cash, not furs, would be exchanged for land, goods, and services. The Métis could relax. Their scrip gave them 240 acres of land in Athabasca, or credit toward land anywhere else in Canada. The Aboriginal people who signed Treaty 8 kept their rights to hunt and fish as much as they needed to, and they were given plows, seed, and other farming equipment if they decided to farm as well. Their concerns for their children's future were satisfied. They had reserved land set aside for them. Their children would always be able to get the education they needed to learn new ways of making a living.